Assalamu alaikum. A container, a calculator, and some water. That's it. That is all you need to determine the value of a concept that has remained obscure for centuries. Just a container, a calculator, and water. CCW. Sounds kind of like the abbreviation for counterclockwise, doesn't it? Well, that's exactly the point, because today we're going against time. For centuries, physicists have struggled with this extremely complex phenomena. Theories after theories have been proposed. Greek philosophers like Aristotle and Archimedes passed by with incorrect beliefs on this concept. Famous and world-renowned scientists Galileo Galilei, Albert Einstein worked specifically to solve this intricate mystery. Sir Isaac Newton developed fundamental equations to explain this concept. And what is this concept, you may ask? Well, it is none other than gravity, the very force that we experience every single second of our lives. So let's forget the past, because today we'll be using just 3 materials to determine the acceleration due to the Earth's gravity. Let's jump into some physics. So here we have our container with a few holes drilled in it. According to Torricelli, the height measured between the water to, say, this hole down here has a direct correlation with the velocity at which the water exits the hole. Specifically, if you were to drop water at this height down to this hole down here, the speed at which it falls will be the exact same as the speed as it exits from this opening. This is known as Torricellis Law. Theory has it that if you vary the height, as I have done here by drilling different holes, and examine its effect on the exit velocity, you can, after a few simple calculations, determine the value of the acceleration due to the Earth's gravity. So here we have the equation that relates the exit velocity of the water to its height, and this is known as Torricelli's equation. G here is a value that we are looking for, the acceleration due to the Earth's gravity. Now if we square both sides so that we can get rid of the root, we are left with v squared equals 2gh. H here is a value that we will be changing. That is why we have 5 holes drilled into our container. This is thus our x variable. And as we change the height, and as I explained earlier, the velocity will also change because they're directly related. Thus, v squared will be our y variable. And as we know in mathematics, y equals mx plus b. Thus, this value here, 2g, is actually our m value, our slope. So how is this significant? Well, you'll see right now. If we graph the relationship between v squared and h, we would get a line as follows, theoretically, because they're directly correlated with each other. Now we must determine the slope of this line. In mathematics, we know m equals, or slope equals, delta y over delta x. And our y value, as explained earlier, is v squared, and our x value is h. Now what do we do from here? Well, if we isolate for 2g, well, we can actually sub this into our equation here. Here's why. V squared equals 2g times h, and if we divide both sides by h, we are left with 2g equals v squared over h. Well, v squared over h is also here, so if 2g equals this value, we can actually substitute it right over here. That means m equals 2g. And what does this mean? That means the slope of this line here is equal to 2 times the acceleration due to the Earth's gravity. So if we divide this by 2, we will get g equals m over 2. So all we have to do is determine the slope of this line, divide it by 2, and then we can get the value for the acceleration due to the Earth's gravity. So we actually determined a value for the slope using the table presented on the screen, and after dividing by 2 and including the uncertainties, we determined a value of 9.50 meters per second squared, which is just 3% off from the accepted 9.81 meters per second squared. Aside from being able to calculate the acceleration due to the Earth's gravity, this device has a fundamental application in today's society. It plays an extremely critical role in understanding the physics behind hydroelectric dams. Using Torricellis Law, we know that the height of the water above the hole is directly related to its exit velocity. Specifically, the higher the water is, the faster the water comes out, and this is due to its gravitational potential energy. Engineers use these equations to construct their dams in such a way that the velocity of the water is maximized. The higher the velocity of the water, the greater force it has, and therefore it turns the turbines in the dams much, much faster. And these are the very turbines which generate electricity to power millions of nearby homes and facilities. Not only that, hydropower prevents the burning of over 100 billion liters of oil and 120 million tons of coal each year. In conclusion, Torricelli's law is not just confined to determining the properties of the Earth, such as gravity, but it also plays a huge role in the present and future construction of hydroelectric dams, and consequently in making our world a more environmentally friendly and clean place. This is a container, this is a calculator, this is some water, and this is pure physics. Jazakallah.